Of course, the big footy headline yesterday had nothing to do with any of the matches that have been played so far, Damo.
No, it didn't. And they revolved around Bailey Smith with the emergence on social media initially and then obviously in the mainstream media of illicit substance usage by himself. And this story now will take a path. We'll just wade through the layers of it. This is part of it. It's a key part of it. It's a statement that Bailey Smith made himself. And as far as apologies go, he owned it, TJ. I mean, he's hit all the right notes in that particular statement. You can read that online. I mean, he has said there that he's deeply ashamed and that he was in a bad patch last year after last year's grand final.
And he did concede it was an illicit substance.
He has conceded that in that statement, yeah. So that's why this story has been able to go to the next stage, and that is that the AFL now will look into this. They haven't yet spoken to him. He spent yesterday, and most of the words in that statement, guys, were from himself. Sometimes the people around these situations get involved, but most of that's himself. The AFL hasn't yet spoken to him. They will do so at some stage of this week, and then what sanction they apply. There will have to be a sanction. I would expect it to be at least 2 weeks.
On top of his headbutt?
Yeah, and Lloyd, just on that, so he misses 2 weeks for the Zach Tui headbutt. To me, the sanction he gets from the AFL, and there's a conditioning and an expectation even from people around Bailey that there will be a match sanction from the AFL. It has to be on top of I think, the match day sanction that he's copped. So do the maths, there's a 4-week gap, you'd think now that it's all part of this. And then you've got the issue now of Bailey himself.
But do the Western Bulldogs impose a sanction, then the AFL impose a sanction?
No, it'll be, as far as I can tell, TJ, it will be left to the AFL to impose that particular part of it. They will deal with him. And look, they're supportive of him. The AFL Players Association has also said it will support, don't condemn. And that's all part of this conversation around the life of Bailey Smith. 3.5 years in the system. He's Tony Modra-like with his off-field profile. And that's not an exaggeration.
So what happens to the Cotton On and Monster and his other sponsors?
Yeah, can't speak for Monster, but as far as I can tell this morning, it's Sunday, 24 hours after the photos first emerged, the Cotton On is supportive of Bailey, and there's no, at this stage, now things can change, meetings can happen over the course of the next 48 hours that do change situations, but there's no feeling at this stage that they will remove their dealings with Bailey Smith, and they were massive in the off-season with the double billboards all around town.
Yeah, spot on. He's Tony Modra, but Tony Modra, there was no phones around. So every move Bailey Smith is making, he's been videotaped for that. Now, he should have been smart enough and had his life in a place where he didn't put himself in this position. But he got famous so quicker than any footballer has ever got famous before. But I wanted to ask you about the illicit drugs policy. What happens now? We've seen other players get a strike because of this, so he will get a strike. But is the policy hard enough, and is the confidentiality of this policy strict enough?
Well, the confidentiality of it is, and whether that's the right way to go about it, I've got my strong views on that. I've seen this policy since it was introduced in the 2005 period. In relation to the West Coast behaviour, and I think it's still lacking, but that's another conversation. Look, he will get a strike under that policy, but it's irrelevant because the AFL has never, ever gone public with those strikes attached to the player's name.
They should go public with them.
Well, they never have. The only time it ever became a 3-strike component was when Travis Tuck, was on a third, and the police got involved in a third. So it's not set up to do that. And that, look, I've got my views on that, and I think you do too. But as far as Bailey Smith's role now in this policy, it'll just be a small part.
Normally these things bubble along for a while, Damo, and video gets out there, but it happened a long time ago. With the Bulldogs, were they aware of it? Did they know it was coming for a while?
No, the best I can tell in the time frame, Brownie, and the questions and the behaviour in question is last year in Queensland after the grand final. Obviously, the grand final was in Perth. You went to Queensland. That was the period of time in question. In terms of the knowledge of these videos and stills, about 3 days ago was the first time someone
he's owned it.
Yeah, and then he had about a 3-day window before it became public.
So he's obviously got to choose his recreational activities a little better, and I dare say choose his friends a little better as well.
And TJ, I think he's taking ownership that I've seen so many players ruin their lives, and it's when their footy ends and you lose the support of your football club, your life falls apart and you spiral out of control. And I hope that this could be the thing that as a real wake up for him while he's still young to say, okay, don't wait till it's too late. Before your life's totally out of control and you haven't got the support. So it might be the best thing that ever happens to him to get his life in order.
We could sit here for half an hour and talk about sports people in Australia who've been, sort of immature and dills in their younger years who've gone on to take on captaincy roles, not just in football, I'm talking cricket and the like. And exactly what Lordo says, it has been the kick up the bum that they needed, the wake-up call that they've needed, and especially someone like Bailey, who for all intents and purposes is a terrific kid, right, who's done the wrong thing. It's not curtains. I mean, it's early days yet. And he can go on to captain that football club.
And he's been playing some great footy this year.
Absolutely has. So we'll bring the curtain down on that one for the moment, but I'm sure he'll have more to say in agenda. And